name is Arianna Anderson, a kid reporter with Invention Convention Worldwide. I'm excited to introduce my guest, Jyothikaa Ramann, a rising senior from the California Bay Area. Jyothikaa has won at U.S. Nationals twice. Welcome, Jyothikaa. Hi, Jyothikaa. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So, first off, can you tell me how your invention works?
Sure. So going on to a brief overview of my invention is, CarC Spy is basically a circuit that is able to detect cancer much earlier using a simple blood test. So if you want to go into the nitty gritty of it all, basically cancer at its growth produces a lot of antibodies to start accumulating and metastasizing pretty quickly. And this happens at the onset of cancer. So what CarC Spy does is that when any type of cancer, be it cervical cancer or lung cancer, it's tuned to finding all of those types of cancers. It'll take those antibodies, it'll through a capillary action, take it to the antibody center, attach it to an antigen, and that basically is the circuit detecting that the cancer is present in the bloodstream. So you can do this with a blood test, you can do this with a biopsy test, but to be less invasive, I've kind of adapted it to a blood test. So at very basic level, CarC Spy is basically going to be detecting certain molecules that the cancer secretes and identifying what cancer that is through a computer software as well.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Oh my gosh. So what made you think of inventing this?
Yeah, sure. It's kind of a personal story, but my uncle was diagnosed with cancer at a very late stage. And despite being in a family of doctors, well, cancer was not readily diagnosed very early. And that's because it's a very secretive disease. So that kind of hints to my name, CarC Spy. You're basically spying for this cancer somewhere in the body. And basically, we see that today's cancer diagnostics involves lengthy, invasive procedures, and they're only efficacious at the late stage of cancer detection. So we have to find a way to mediate this problem, cure more patients, and save more lives. And that is basically at the crux of finding cancer at an earlier stage of diagnosis. So when we have that, we can't focus on treatments. We have to focus on what's hindsight, and that's the diagnosis. So seeing that over 10 million people die per year, I initially started this experiment just to find different types of biomarkers to mark cancer, but then that evolved into an experiment of creating this actual device, this actual prototype that can essentially detect cancer at its root from a simple blood test. Because as I said before, right at the onset of cancer, tumor cells of the cancer start circulating the bloodstream, so you can start detecting the cancer from there right away.
I love that. I think it's very special when you're able to connect to your invention and have something that constantly motivates you to keep working on it and making it the best that you can make it. Have you thought about making it mainstream to the public for hospitals?
Well, especially if this is going to be introduced to patients, we're going to have to do excessive tests on it. Right now, I've done some laboratory tests on petri dishes, and I've also evolved to take some tests on planaria, which is a species of flatworm, which has a very similar genetic code to humans. So the next step for my next project would be to probably experiment with more higher evolved species, such as squirrels and rats, more closer to the human genome. And then essentially, if I really want to take this to the next level, we'll have to do clinical trials, testing on actual human patients to see if it efficiently and productively can capture that cancer within that human atmosphere. So there's a lot of steps to take, but at the end of the day, if we do get there, and this is probably going to be spilling into my mid-20s or something, but probably after school and everything like that, I can get to that point where I can market it out like that.
While inventing, who were your biggest cheerleaders through the process?
I've got to say that number one, it was my parents. They probably thought this entire invention that I was making was not possible at the time, right? If you go search up what a biomarker is, there's 1,000 different things, but there's nothing on how can you diagnose that biomarker in the bloodstream. That's new, that's novel. So it took a lot of personal strength on me, but that support came from my family as well. They had to believe that I can do it. They provided me the resources of driving me to the lab every Sunday to do that experimentation. And it also came from my teachers who taught me AP biology and honors anatomy. They helped me learn more oncology concepts after school because all of this was new to me. It just took their support and then my passion to apply that totally got to the end of the day.
I can connect to that as well. My biggest cheerleaders were my parents. Um, I think that I would have had a completely different invention without their support and their love and their input. Um, do you think your invention would have come out different?
Well, yeah, definitely. As I told you before, my first thought on this experiment was that I would just do computational research, something I can easily access, something that is readily available online. But without their support, like especially I was doing this experiment during the pandemic, without their support, my teacher's support, online virtually, none of this would have been possible. I would have just stuck to like this mediocre project of doing everything computationally, but then because I had that support, because I had that drive that they initially got me there to, I took it another step further.
Incredible. So I know we touched on this a little bit before, but for younger generations, maybe middle schoolers, or and just children rising up in today, um, why is this important for them to learn about? And um, why is your invention and other inventions similar, going to help these new generations?
Well, at the crux of it all, it's a mindset that you have to develop this perspective on invention making because when you have that perspective, it can apply to so many facets of your life problem solving, decision making, creating timelines to create that invention before the competition. Those are all life skills. This competition is just a way to develop those skills for you. And at the end of the day, when you have those skills together, you're going to start leading a more productive and efficient life. You can do all your different tasks more organized way, and all of a sudden you just have a more productive lifestyle. For example, when I was doing this I've been making inventions sixth grade, fifth grade, and because of that, high school doesn't seem as difficult for me. I have everything planned out, I have calendars, I have plans, and I can juggle making all these inventions, doing my favorite hobbies and relaxing at the same time because I developed those skills. And that's why at the end of the day, this thought process, this mind thinking, it's going to help in different facets of your life. It's going to help in high school, learning those different curriculums. It's going to help in everyday tasks of life and so much more.
That is so important on how you talked about mindset because, especially in the invention world, I know a lot of people focus on the hard skills and things that you can just write on paper, but a lot of people forget about the soft skills that you can learn over time, and it's not something that you just read out of a textbook or you learn about in school. Did you experience, I know being a girl of color myself, and that implicit bias that sometimes people can put on you, did you experience setbacks from others or society as a whole?
Well, thankfully for me, while I was doing this experiment, everything was virtual. I think I did everything separately. But before, while I was doing another invention, when I was starting to learn how to code, put circuits together, and piece everything together, I actually found a teacher in my local area who was teaching, computer science and circuitry. And he was teaching mainly, boys. He didn't teach girls. So it took that initial start to prove to him that I had that passion, that I had that drive to get things done, that he took more faith in me. He put more faith in me to push me to that next level. So yeah, you're gonna have those setbacks, but anytime you have that hard work and determination, you put a deeper understanding in yourself that you have the passion to go forward. So people will start understanding that to help you out. It just takes hard work on your part, and hard work never fails. It always leads you to a better place.
Um, that's so special to me, how you are breaking that barrier that so many people have and the stigma of what is out there for inventing. And especially while in school before even graduating, you've done so much to break that barrier and show younger girls of color what they can do and that they don't have to follow a certain pathway that society has paved for them. If you had more time, what other things would you add to your invention?
Yeah, so I think for my invention, the main thing that I want to focus on is doing more experimentation to really see how can I push its limits. Because as I do more experimentation, that's where I attain more failures. And if I attain more failures, that's where I get the feedback to improve on that invention. And without those failures, of course, you're not going to get to the top. You're not going to get successful because those failures are going to give you input. And taking that input, digesting it, applying different mechanisms to my invention is what's going to give that good output. So I think at this point, what I'm going to be doing is more experimentation, like I told you about, with different types of species, different types of blood samples, and just evolving and just taking the process slow, because that's where I'm going to get the most information, the most details to improve upon the product.
That's great. I love your advice of making sure to take the work and all the challenges that you had in the past and digest it and be able to learn from it. That's great. So I've got to know, as a nationals contestant myself, how was it winning, especially twice? Like, what was going through your mind when that all happened?
I was just really excited to know that other people understood my invention, first of all, because I think it's pretty complex to understand. So that gave me a lot of positive feedback on my end that I was explaining it right, because communication is key to different aspects of life and this competition in particular. But I also love to see that there was like so much joy and happiness from everybody in the competition network and people recognizing my invention, like people like you, Arianna, who wanted to know more about my invention. And now we're sharing it to more people out there. That's the ultimate joy you can get. More people talking about what you're doing so you can feel proud of what you're doing. And that itself is a drive to do better things.
100%, I agree. Um, what career path are you thinking for the future?
I actually want to do something mixed in with medicine and a PhD. So I want to be a doctor because I'm pretty passionate about patient care. I volunteer at some hospitals. But I also want to do research on the side because I believe that research is a key component of innovation if we want to better healthcare. So as I do research on the side, as I look at patients, I think that's like the most efficient pathway for me given my skills and my mindset right now.
I love that. That's fantastic. I think learning about it and continuing to research, not even just in healthcare, but in so many different fields, just research and constantly learning more things about different problems is how you're going to be, how you're going to have more different solutions to create to those problems. So, any advice do you have for teenagers getting into inventing? Because I know there's a stigma that it happened in sixth grade, it was just a science fair, I can't get into it now, or it's too late. So, what do you have to say to those people that may have more of a negative connotation to inventing as a teenager?
I'll tell you something that I've had that stigma against myself for a long time. For example, I remember doing Bharatanatyam, which is an Indian dance, back in fourth grade. And then I really wanted to get back into it in ninth grade, but I felt that stigma that I shouldn't do it. Like, I'm too old for that stuff. Like, I should have had that practice over time. But, going back to it, it came quicker to me because I'm more mature. So, at any stage of life, you can go back into it. You're just going to have a bigger mindset to dive into it even deeper. So think of it as a positive that you're coming into it later. You're just going to have a better mindset than fourth graders. You're going to be smarter. You're going to be more mature. And you probably will achieve better things because you have more resources at hand. So think of it as the glass half full. Be more optimistic, and possibly that'll take you to great places as well.
For sure, optimism is great, especially being more mature and maturing as you grow older. This was phenomenal. You are so, so inspiring. Thank you, Jyothikaa, for having me and joining. Um, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.